Yeah, it's even the guitarist like Michael Amott started as a hardcore guitarist.
Oh yeah.
So now he's like a typical heavy metal guitarist now, but it's strange.
Yeah. I was in a punk band as well.
Oh really?
Yeah.
In the 70s?
Yeah, we had me and actually the singer of Overdrive. We started playing together from the first time we actually met. We started forming bands, and we had a band called TNT, and we played we played covers mostly by Budgie, Sex Pistols, Screwdriver, not the Nazi band, but the punk band, and was it more Nazareth or that. So we mixed a lot, but we were really into punk. I collected Sex Pistols records back in like in 78, 79.
So punk is one of the roots for you guys.
Yeah, I started out with hard rock, then I liked punk as well, and then I got back to hard rock again. But I still like Sex Pistols.
It's a good, great rock and roll band. So
it is, yeah.
Okay. Then after that came melodic death metal bands like In Flames, Tranquility. I think I always think death metal is an evolution from thrash metal, and melodic death metal is something kind of back to roots, like back to the new wave of British heavy metal, like melodies. So, well, again in Sweden, the trend busted.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that when you talk to those bands, Dark Tranquility, In Flames, and you ask them about, how did you start the Gothenburg movement? They say, what movement? We didn't even think about it as some new trend or something. We just, and they weren't even like trying to copy each other either, but they were just playing what they wanted, what they liked, and they liked old heavy metal, all of them, and they also liked death metal. So I think that's how they kind of incorporated the heavy metal melodies into the death metal. And for some reason they were all kind of from the same city, which is why it became a Gothenburg sound. But when you ask them themselves, they can't really explain why it happened just there and then. They were probably kind of subconsciously influenced by each other, I think. I mean, they shared rehearsal spaces and they did shows together. So,
I think it's one of the greatest scenes.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what about today? Now, it seems some vintage hard rock heavy metal stuff like Ghost, Enforcer, Witchcraft.
So, yeah, especially in say the last 6-7 years, there was like a resurrection of classic new wave of British heavy metal. And the fun thing is that when we reunited Overdrive, I mean, Overdrive existed at first between 1980 and 1985, and then we split and we did all kinds of other things, and then we did one reunion show in 2003, and then suddenly we were offered to play in Germany. We got a new record deal, and so our original singer left, and we got Per on vocals in 2004. And then we at that time, Hammerfall had started kind of resurrecting the old heavy metal as well. And then when we did the reunion show, there were lots of like kids that weren't even born when we released the first album. They were there in like spandex and their t-shirts and the Overdrive records, and we're like, what? And it seemed like we talked to them. I love all these old heavy metal bands like Gotham City and 220 Volt and Overdrive. I got the demo tapes, and they're collecting demos again. And it seems like they found their parents' record collection and the demos and stuff, and like, wow, this is where it all comes from. And I think then also a lot of these guys, I remember on the first show that we did, one of the guys in the front, or two of the guys, are in the band Helvetet Sport. And I think a lot of those guys also wanted to start bands and wanted to recreate this thing as well. And then suddenly there were Steelwing, Enforcer, Helvetet Sport, a lot of these guys. And then it started spreading again, and a lot of labels have started picking these bands up, and a lot of labels in Greece, for instance, No Remorse Records, or reissuing old demos with Swedish bands. And when the bands see that oh, they like us, maybe we should like reunite and do like a show. And so a lot of the old Swedish bands have started reuniting as well. So it's a nice mix of old reunited bands and the new bands that play the same style as well. They share labels and share shows and stuff. Yeah.
So do you see any difference between Sweden and other Scandinavian countries?
Yeah, there's actually quite a big difference between the countries. I think that Denmark is not really. I mean, Denmark is, I think, a bit more melodic in a sense. There's not that many death metal bands, and I mean the biggest like hard rock band is DAD, but they are more like classic hard rock pop kind of stuff. And then you have Pretty Maids, of course. Yeah, Mercy Fate. Yeah, of course. But there's not that many bands in Denmark. I don't know why. Norway is, or also, it's funny because Norway have the really melodic like poppy bands or like TNT and Stage Dolls and all that stuff. And then you have the extreme black metal, satanic bands, church burning stuff. And you don't have that much in between, not that many classic heavy metal bands in that sense.
You were right. Norway.
Yeah.
Probably black metal was the first movement.
Yeah, the first big
movement in Norway.
And they thought that the Swedish bands were too wimpy. So I mean, like the county wanted to kill the guys in Therion or whatever.
Yeah, right. Maybe this section was the first, counterpart.
Yeah. And then Finland has also, they've been for themselves kind of, because there's not been that many Finnish heavy metal bands that have made it big in Sweden either. They have a lot of bands there, but it seems like they're inside Finland a lot. Stratovarius have come outside, and some other bands as well. But I know there's a lot of bands in Finland, but we don't see them in Sweden, and we were neighbors.
Finland. Yeah, I think Finland has a lot of heavy metal bands. Most of them charted in Finland.
Yeah.
But not outside of Finland.
No, because I got the magazine, Perkele magazine, and there was a compilation CD, and it was like 15 bands I'd never heard of.
Oh, really?
And they were really good. Some of them were singing in Finnish as well.
Okay, Finnish is quite different from
it's totally Swedish and Norwegian are quite similar.
Close.
So we understand each other really well. Danish is we can more easily read Danish, but when they start talking, it's very hard to understand. But it's still, those languages are related. But Finnish is related to I think it's the Romanian language. So it's a totally different language group, so we don't understand each other at all. So maybe that's why also.